Son's name. Amen. Les Miserables is one of the most beloved musicals in the modern musical theater canon. For almost 40 years, it's been running either on Broadway or on tour almost non-stop, and probably actually non-stop, but I couldn't quite confirm that. The songs are sung at all sorts of recitals and concerts. Images from it, such as the rebels at the end of the first act waving the French flag, have become icons and are used in media as subtle jokes. And many of the characters are among the most revered in all of musical theater. In short, it is a show that American audiences go gaga for, and I'm not sure I know why. I mean, most Americans believe in following the law, and while the definition of what that word or that phrase may order, most Americans treasure law and order, not just the long-running TV show. And yet, the main characters of Les Mis are anything but law-abiding. Jean Valjean, our lead and spiritual heart of the show, is a criminal. For most of the production, he is blatantly breaking the law. He fails in his parole, he runs away from law enforcement, and spends his life in hiding. And then there is Marius, a romantic lead. He and his friends plot a rebellion to overthrow their own government. And we're supposed to like these people? What a strange show to captivate an American audience. Okay, so that was a little bit of a joke. I'm kidding. Because I do actually know and appreciate why Les Mis is beloved, and the answer is it deserves it. The musical Les Miserables is beloved because of its powerful story and equally powerful music. It's a grand epic based on an even grander novel by Victor Hugo that gathers you up from the first notes and never lets you go. Its characters are all larger than life, but also full of complications that allow them to feel real and allow them to ask important questions. And its themes are universal and well worth exploring. One of those themes, which I've been jokingly referencing just now, is the juxtaposition of what is legal and what is right, between law and grace. All joking aside, Jean Valjean really does break the law. That's not made up for the show. Inspector Javert, our main villain, is legally within both his rights and his duties to try and recapture Jean Valjean and bring him back to prison. What Javert fails to realize and see, what Jean Valjean comes to know, that there is a greater law, a greater grace, a greater call upon Javert and Valjean and upon all of us, really, than just the specific rules of France. It's a law as Christians ought to know about. It's the law of love. That's what Jesus talks about in the gospel reading this morning in the Gospel of Matthew. The lawyer comes to him asking a very real question. What's the greatest commandment? What's the greatest law? Jesus says to love. To love God with all of our being and to love our neighbors as ourselves. That's the law we Christians are called to follow. That's the law God gives, honestly, all human beings to follow. It's meant to center who we are and how we live. In the show, we see this perhaps most powerfully right at the beginning, when Jean Valjean meets a priest. His name was Priest in the show. I think he has a name in the book, I'm not really certain. And in this incident, Jean Valjean, still at this point wearing his parole badge, keeps being turned away from jobs and even lodging, sleeping on the streets because people are afraid of that criminal, how dangerous he might be. priest isn't cowed by fear and takes Jean Valjean in for the night, feeding him, giving him shelter, and Valjean, perhaps out of habit and certainly out of desperation, returns the priest's charity and love by stealing his silverware. But then he gets caught. Jean Valjean, though, is smart, so he comes up with a story. It's a complete fabrication. He makes it up. He tells the arresting officer that the priest actually gave him the silver as a gift. And the officers bring Valjean to the priest, expecting the priest to say, no, that's a total lie. They can take Valjean back to prison. And instead, the priest says, that is right. But my friend, you left so early, says the priest. Surely something slipped your mind. You forgot I gave these also. 2 giant candlesticks made of silver. Would you leave the best behind? The priest, giving Valjean a little after the fact, his silverware and the 2 heirloom candlesticks that he had held from his own parents, binds Valjean his freedom. The priest could have simply told the truth. Valjean had broken the law. By the right of the French law, and honestly by any nation's law, he deserved to be imprisoned. The priest was living by a different law, the law of love, and was able to see in Valjean something he himself didn't yet see. The ability to love, the ability to be transformed, to be a man worth saving. And this simple act of love by the priest proves to be transformational. It changes the life of Valjean, and eventually changes the life of Cosette and Marius. All because one priest was able to love. As Christians, we too are called to live by this law of love, and to see it as our primary law, even if doing so puts us at odds with the laws of our own nations. Now, I am not advocating that we go into mass anarchy, and I'm not saying you should go out there and just start breaking the law willy-nilly. For one, we have law enforcement officers in this congregation. I don't know that's a great conversation to have. But we have an obligation to act out of the ways of love, and if doing so puts us in competition with an unjust or unjustly applied law, well, the law of love has to come first. During the Civil Rights era, many activists broke many laws. It was illegal for people of color to sit at lunch tables. It was illegal for Rosa Parks to not give up her seat on the bus. They broke many laws and many went to jail for it. But the law of love, the law of justice, compelled them more. They knew that they had to follow God's law first, and so they did. In recent months, 4 workers in Arizona were charged and convicted of breaking local laws down there. Their offense? They left water bottles and food in the desert, in the hopes that migrants crossing illegally, I suppose and otherwise, let's be real here, might be able to find them and have nourishment and literally not die in the wilderness. Another woman a few months ago was arrested for transporting illegals. What happened to her? Well, she was driving on the highway and saw some teenagers the same ages as her sons that needed to get to a hospital. She picked them up and drove them to the hospital. Now, as far as I can tell, she's not been charged. She was arrested, but the charges seem to have not been followed through. So perhaps some justice is indeed happening, at least in her case. But in both of these cases, the people involved seem to have violated the legalities of the situation. They broke the law. But they were compelled by a deeper law. The law of caring for their neighbors as themselves. The law of love. And it is that law, even more than those of our nation, we are called to fulfill. We are called to put first. Now please allow me one important caveat. I'm a pastor. We do caveats like we breathe. And here's the caveat. We may not all agree here in this room about the exact details of what the law of love compels us to do. In fact, even though I tried to find examples I felt were mostly non-controversial, we may not even agree on the examples I gave. That's okay. A part of what it means as the church, in fact, a part of the gift of the church, that we provide checks and balances to each other. My ideas about loving our neighbor looks like they differ from yours. And I need to hear your ideas just as much as you need to hear mine. Because God needs all of us to keep working at this love thing. Because we all have our own roles to play. And we all see different things. And because the law of love is too important for any one of us to assume that we have it all figured out. It just is. We need to keep hearing from one another. Keep listening to one another. The concept, the idea that we are called to love our neighbors, that we are bound by that commandment, that law of love, well, I think it's central. It's definitional. And all the things we do as Christians in the world, from how we live our lives, to how we make purchasing decisions, to how we vote, ought to be seen through this law. Through how we can show God's love, our love, to others. For that, we do need each other. We need each other to listen, to hear, to empower. We need each other at the table when we come once a month or so to break bread together. So that so doing, we are reminded to listen to each other, to be reminded of the love of Christ that binds us together and empowers our own love for the world. We need each other because we have loving to do. So go from this place with picnic, weary, tired bodies. Go from this place and follow the law of love. Love God, love neighbor. Love even if it costs you. Love even if it might get you in trouble. Love because that's what God calls us to be. And as you do, you may find yet one more surprise, one hinted at in Les Miserables. You see at the very end of the show, when Jean Valjean is nearing death after a long, full life, he sings this line that is in many ways the essential theme of the entire show. To love another person is to see the face of God. Friends, go in love. Because God calls us to and even commands us to, because God has loved us first. Because when you do, when we do,